Welcome you all to the Unit 10 of Block 3 International Pricing Strategy. Already from the last two classes, we have talked about different aspect of product and the branding, and also we have talked about the IMC International Marketing Communications. So here we have already concluded the product part and the promotional part. So another two aspect we'll be discussing, that is one is your pricing part and placing part, distribution part. When it comes to international pricing is one of the sensitive issue because the marketer has to understand if there is the rise in price will have an impact or reducing price and impact. Also, not only that, also the company has to understand the legal aspect, the political aspect. Also, the company has to understand the competitive aspect. Also, the company has to understand the exchange rates. The exchange rate fluctuation is also one of the determinants of cost of productions. Also, that will if the currency appreciates, the value of the product increases. If the currency depreciates, the value of the product decreases. So that will have an impact on the pricing decisions. So pricing decision is not an easy task. It is a very costly affair, and also the foreign exchange rate is important determinant as far as cost of production is concerned. So it is basically a complex task. If we talk about that, it's a complex affair due to the political risks involved. Let us talk about an example. Suppose you are operating another country where you are procuring raw material from the farmers or from the source. So you have to see whether the source has a it is a government controlled or it is not government controlled. If government control is there, you have to have a price which is fixed by the government. You cannot go beyond that price. That is why the uh, pricing aspect in international market is challenging. That is why another thing is that handling advantage in terms of currency gains. Already have talked about that. That is, if the currency appreciates, then you are getting benefit, but it should be that is you have to also involve in the foreign transactions. So that is what we talk about. That is the challenging part or major importance of pricing as far as international marketing is concerned. First one is pricing is sensitive. You have to understand the details of the pricing aspect. What are the factors? What are the determinants which are influencing price? Whether it is a government is influencing, whether it is competitive market is influencing, or any exchange rate is influencing. So, what exactly influencing the price? That is, you have to see. Then also you have to decide. Also, it is due to the political situations, and even if you are getting a benefit of price appreciation, currency appreciations, but also there is a risk of foreign transactions. So when you talk about the price settings, there are three kinds of price setting as far as international market is concerned. There are three types of price setting. The first one is cost. When you talk about the cost is exactly the cost involved in a price in a product. That is, there is a threshold limit. Beyond that limit, you cannot go beyond the below that limit. That is where the cost is fixed cost involved, the variable cost involved. So fixed cost and variable cost you have to take into consideration when you are designing the price of the product. So that is why you have to understand what are the cost involved in the production of the product. That is. Second one is sometimes the demand supply. It's talking about the market driven. If the price is a market driven, you do not have any control over the price. You have only control over the what is that is the demand and supply. They decide the price. If demand increases, the price of the product increases. If supply increases, automatically the price of the supply. The demand is basically is market driven. Supply is basically it is competition driven. So that is if you are that is your competitors. If the competitors more number of competitors, then the price will reduce. If there is a high demand in the market, then exactly the price will rise. Then also we have talked about the economic, legal and political conditions, whether there is a legally bound, you are legally bound with certain things. We talk about APs, that is a PM, administrative price mechanism, or you talk about the government legal aspects are there as far as pricing is concerned. That is the threshold limit is there as far as the government price is concerned. So you cannot change that price, you cannot take more than the price, you cannot take less than the price. That is why you have to talk about. Also, the meantime, the government is also taking some economic policies. If the government is talking about they are providing these subsidies in certain products, so if you wanted to, when you are designing the price, you have to see, you have to also take into consideration the subsidy of say aspects and the political conditions, whether there are a, any task, any levy, any like they are putting on the imported products. So all these cases that is will decide about as far as pricing setting is concerned. These are the cost involved, the fixed cost involved, the variable cost involved. That is also decided the product price. Also the demand supply. The demand supply. If the competition is more, the market will decide the price. And also if the demand is more, the price will be higher. If the demand is less, price will be less. But supply the number of competitors present in that sense, and also the legal aspects and the political aspect, that is the economic aspect, that is also deciding the price settings. Next, we talk about what about the talking about the process of price setting. When you talk about the process of price setting, first of all, you have to identify. Already, we have talked about that in the beginning. Also, you have to talk about that. That is, we have talked about the segmentation approach. When you are dividing the market into different parts, that is, you are going for segmentations. So, you are identifying your target markets. When you are identifying your target market, whether your market is a smaller one or a bigger one, or it is a premium one. So when you are identifying your market, you are deciding exactly what could be my position. If my positioning will be a premium positioning or economic positioning, if the premium positioning, you will be charging high price, because the positioning of the product and the price you charge has to go together. So what is your objective? What is your marketing goals? Your goals may be that is to achieve more market share. So when you wanted to achieve more market share, then exactly your pricing will be penetration pricing, because penetration pricing will help you to penetrate in the market. That is why we have to think about what is the marketing mix. The marketing mix is product, price, place and promotion. Your product will be a economic product, your product will price will be less per price. Promotion, you are going for the mass promotions, and distribution, it will be available intensive distributions. Like this, exactly your goal of the marketing, your goal of the marketing, that decides your marketing mix. If the goal is to only we are talking about only you will remain for premium segments or niche segments, then your marketing mix will be altogether different. That is why we have to take into consideration what is our marketing goal. Accordingly, we are fixing our marketing mix. So once you talking about the marketing mix, choosing the marketing mix, then you are going for the composing the marketing mix, whether the price will be the product will be the same product, or you are going for extension of the product, or you are going for adoption of the new product, or you are going for a new pricing strategy, or what will be the change. As far as we discussed in the previous sessions, that is, you have the option of standardization price, and you have the option of adaptation pricing. Adaptation and standardization strategy can be adaptable as far as your composition of the marketing mix is concerned. When you talk about the determining the pricing policy, or talking about the determining price policy, you would wanted to have a control over the market. Then exactly you have to go with a discounts offers, and also you'll be providing a lot of hebrews. So then people will make it a habit of purchasing the product. Once you are going for that, then exactly what will be the pricing strategy. Your pricing strategy will be a skimming pricing strategy or penetration pricing strategy. That exactly you have to, or cost plus pricing strategy. The different pricing strategy we will be discussing later on. That will be your pricing strategy. So if that decides exactly the first, exactly decide exactly your objective. What is your marketing goals? Your marketing goal is to get more market share, or you want to you want to get a chunk of the market, only in only the cream of the market you wanted to control. So what is your goals? Once your goal is decided, then exactly you are talking about the marketing mix, which includes the 4 P's. Once you have the four P's, then exactly you are talking about that if you want the objective of pricing, that is penetrations, you would like to keep the price low. If you wanted to have the only wanted to get the cream of the market, then exactly you have to only go for the premium pricing. That exactly decide about the pricing setting. Mostly the pricing setting depends on your marketing goals and your marketing mix and pricing strategy. When you're talking about the pricing in international market, when you're talking about the pricing in international market, what are the other factors that also decides about the pricing in international market? When you talk about the what are the things, we talk about the four aspects. What are the things that is deciding? We talk about the farm life cycle. When you talk about the farm life cycle, when you talk about already we are talking about the stages of life cycles. That is exactly you talk about the export, then you talk about domestic, then you go for then you become international, then you global. The way you are moving when you are becoming a global company, you have control over the price, you are achieving economies of scale, you have a control over the market. So whatever price you will be fixing, that may be the best price. But if you are only dealing with export, only you do not have any control over the market, you are only dealing with exports, your price will be different. You are dealing with only international market, your price will be different. So mostly your life cycle decides your pricing, whether you are a only remains within the export or you are going for international market or you are becoming a global market, that decides about your pricing. We talk about the second one is demand conditions. What are the demand? The demand is exactly for the product. If the demand is high, you will be charging high price. If the demand is low, you will be charging less price. Demand in elasticity we come across whether there is a whether reducing the price has an impact on the demand or there is no impact on the demand. That is a clear option. See about what about the demand elasticity? Whether demand on the price rise or price low has an impact on the demand, that exactly will decide the demand conditions. Then we talk about the product life cycles. When your product is in the in the introduction stage, in the initial stage, already we talked about that. When the product is in the initial stage, basically it is involves a lot of research and development. So for that reason, you cannot afford to lose the market share because you have to keep the price high. But once the product has reached the decline stage, you will be selling the product with low price. So that is why the introduction stage you will be selling the product with low price. Once the product has reached the decline stage, will be different because the product you are talking about, that you have to think about which life cycle this product is going for, whether it is the introduction stage or growth stage or decline stage or maturity stage, or as far as international marketing is concerned, whether the product is in the introduction stage, which involves a lot of research and development. That's decided about the pricing. Then we talk about the supply conditions. What about the supply conditions? What are the do you whatever the price they will as do not have any control over the price. Whatever the price they will so cost is one of the. Then exactly talk about the currency. The currency you are dealing with that exactly decide. If you are talking about that you are going for a dollar, then exactly the currency, the choice of currency in which the quote is made is an important decision, as an unwanted fluctuation in the exchange rate may wipe out the business profit definitely. Because if the currency depreciates, if you are going for dollar and you are going for rupee, or if rupee appreciates or depreciates, or current dollar appreciates and depreciates, that has a significant impact on your business profitability. That is why you have to choose carefully the international currency, which is mostly remains stable, does not fluctuate, in every time. Has a You have a control over that. You do not have a control over that. That is why the currency you are going for that exactly decides about the quotation, price quotations. Terms of delivery. When you talk about the terms of delivery, the trade terms represent an important element of the quote. The quoted price changes with the change in terms. Therefore, the price quoted by exporter will need to be adjusted according to terms of the delivery. If you are giving a lot of early delivery, we're talking about early delivery or late delivery. So if it is early delivery, you will be you know putting a lot of efforts as far as labor is the factor of production is concerned. Production is concerned, labor is concerned, investment is concerned. You are putting a lot of money on that. So what will happen? Now that is your price will be higher. But if it's ensuring the product will be delivered in the as per the requirements, the price will be different. The delivery. So cost involved. What are the cost involved? That exactly decides about the quotations, because we have talked about that. The quote we talk about the threshold limit on which you are selling the product, because you are the fixed cost. The product has to cover the fixed cost at least. So if the product is not covering the fixed cost, you are incurring loss. So that is why I think about what about the fixed cost. If the fixed cost is higher, then exactly you have to sell the product with higher price. Then we talk about the currency. The currency you are talking about, the currency also decides whether that is exactly you are going for that is a currency which is mostly fluctuating, or it is remains stagnant throughout the transactions. So that is exactly, that is why you have to go for, sometimes you talk about the forward exchange. So that is exactly, if you are going for a forward exchange, what happens, the exchange remains bit stable, because you can predict what will the, you can go for the higher price or lower price as far as forward is concerned. You can go for the forward markets and your price will remain stable. Then to talk about the terms of delivery. The terms of delivery, whether you are looking for early delivery or late delivery. If you are talking about early delivery, what happens? Then the price will be high because the cost involved in preparing or procuring the product, the exactly the factor products that involve, that decides about the your price mechanism. That is why the price remains high as far as if you look for the early delivery. So that is why the terms of delivery, that is also decided the price quotations. Then exactly we talk about what are the informations you require. So information pricing decisions, you talk about the production of cost details. What are the cost involved in as far as production is concerned? So that is why the companies, they wanted to have their own hub, or they wanted to their own production unit in the markets where they are operating. Because if they wanted to enter in the Indian market, they wanted to have the production here, because here, if you compare across the globe, one of the cheapest labor, cheapest raw material is available in India. So if you have your production unit here, you can get in, you are producing the product with lesser price. So exactly you have a control over the cost. But if you are exporting that, what will happen? That is exactly you do not have a control over. So that is why the most company, they are shifting their production units to the Indian market. Because of what reason? Because the cost of production as far as the Indian market is concerned, that is why we talk about the Make in India campaign, where government is encouraging you, come here, invest here, and produce here, and provide employment opportunity to our people. And you, because you are getting a market, like a market like India, which is mostly diversified, huge populations. And why should you bring products from other parts of the country, other parts of the world, and delivering here? Have your production units here. So that is why the production cost is your fixed cost, variable cost, and logistics cost, all cost involved. That is in talking about the that is decides about the price decisions. Second, we talk about the cost of distributions. When you talk about the cost of distribution, I talk about it. May remember, let me tell you. If the product is a high-end product, then exactly it requires exclusive retail outlets. When it requires exclusive retail outlet, the operating cost for a exclusive retail outlet is relatively higher as compared to a low involvement product. If the product is a high-end product, it requires a lot of the distribution pattern will be different. But if it is a low-end product, it requires intensive distribution. So that is why the involved are you going for a exclusive distributions or intensive distribution or selective distribution. That exactly decides about the cost of production, cost of distributions. If it is intensive, highly low, less price is involved as far as the production distribution is concerned. But if you are going for exclusive or selective, the price involved as far as distribution is concerned is huge price. And that is why, but if that are all have to align. The product has to align with the price has to align with the production, the distributions, and promotion. All has to align together because that is exactly we are talking about. That is, if you do not align, then may confusion, misperception will be created among the target audience. Then you talk about the cost of marketing support, advertising, sales, promotion, and technical literatures. Whether your product requires lot of investment as far as advertising is concerned. So whatever you spend on advertising, you will be charging, you will passing the same cost to the customers. So that is exactly talk about what kind of the cost of marketing that is requires advertising, sales, promotion, technicals. If you are talking about the Indian market, which requires huge promotions, huge advertisement, whatever product you wanted to introduce. If the advertisement cost is huge enough, then exactly you will put in that cost, you are including that cost with the price of the product. So that is exactly is dictating it also impacting the pricing decisions. Then last not the least is nature of the product. If it is a nature of the product, whether it is a better product, is a low end product, middle range product, or high end product, or the product is a disposable item, or it is a FMCG product, or it is a who is if it is a perishable item. So exactly that decides about the nature of the product. Exactly we talk about the nature of the product. If it is perishable one, the price will be different. If it is high end product, the price will be different. If low end product, that price will be different. So that is exactly you have to think about when you are going for the pricing decisions. You have to think about what are the production cost involved, what are the distribution cost involved, what are the cost involved as far as promotion is concerned, and nature of the product. That all decides about your pricing decisions. Then you talk about information of pricing decisions, where you get informations that is exactly market information. You have to get information from the market, information for the pricing decisions. You have to collect information from the market. If the market is a exactly it's a monopoly market, to whatever price you will fix, that is because you have the only player, you are operating, you have control over the market. So if you have the control over the market, then exactly you can charge high price. But if it is high competitions, so exactly you have to see that is whatever the market decides, you have to keep that price. With little competitions or low competitions, so exactly the market structure itself defines your pricing decisions. The speculative market developed and the developing countries, particular segments in the developed countries may be interested in low price. Yes, already I have talked about that. Indian customers are basically they are price sensitive. So anything is offered to them with price sensitive. Like talking about the case of Uber. Uber is an international company. When they or Amazon, they are international company. When they enter the Indian market, they know the Indian customers are price sensitive. Anything is offered free, they will be it will become their habit. So that is why Uber introduced low price or free rides in the initial phase. They introduce low price to attract the customer, attract when the customer experience the services, then habit developed within them. Once habit developed within them, then it will become they are not ready to accept. Now Uber is doing good, extremely well in the market because in the beginning they understand the customers are looking for free rides. If you are not providing free rides, then exactly our company will not do better business. So one you have to make sure that is exactly let people adopt or let people accept your offerings. Once people start accepting your offering, then you can go for incremental pricing. Pricing, but initially you have to understand what is the who is a customer, what is the preference of the customer. Are they looking for low price or high price? That is exactly you have to see. Ruling price in the foreign market, including the price of substitutes. That is exactly you have to see. What about the substitutes? You have to take into account the substitutes. Suppose you are a tea market, you are selling tea for tea. You are a Nestea. You have to see what about the coffee. Whether coffee is higher price or lower price. That exactly you have to see for what is the difference between coffee and tea as far as price is concerned. That will also decide about the ruling price in the current market, including the price of the substitutes. Terms of payment offered by the competitor demanded by the importers. That exactly what are the terms competitor is offering and what are the importers. Import duties, border physical charges, quota restrictions. Quota is exactly certain, certain percentage of your product can be sold, can be imported. There is a restrictions. So exactly you cannot go beyond that restrictions. The terms of that is the duties levied by the companies, that is the government. That exactly if they are charging high price as far as import product is concerned, the price will become higher. So if the charging less price, that will become if it is FTA, free trade agreement, then there is free exchange of goods and services between the countries. If it is that is exactly decided terms of the import duty, border physical charges, quota and restrictions that also decide about the pricing decisions. Major sources of supply in the importing countries, local or foreign, who are supplying. I already have cited you example like if you are going for if you see India is a market where there is a high demand of your product and the product, why should you import all the products from the outside from across the globe and then assembling here and selling the product with high price instead of that. Market's a market where there is a high demand, raw material and your labor, cheap labors are available. Let us go for productions. So you have a control over the price, you have a control over the cost. That exactly the supply. Then trade preference or trade agreement if any. You have to see also seeing whether there is any agreement. We talk about FTA or if you are coming on the economic regions, is there any there is a that rule is different for the regions itself. Then second one you talk about informations required at micro level. What are the informations? Production capacity of farm installed as well as utilized. You are not utilize utmost your production capacity, then exactly what will happen. That is why the case of how did P&G entered in the Indian market. When Godrej they started their production unit, they saw the production unit is underutilized. That is why they wanted somebody become a partner of them. So during that time, P&G, Procter and Gamble, one of the foreign company, they wanted to enter to the Indian market. They know because if you enter to the Indian market, we will have a getting the access to a big market. So what happens? So that during that time, so P&G and Godrej they had made a joint venture. They want for collaborations or joint ventures. That is the objective of Godrej was to utilize its production unit. The objective of P&G is to get control over the market, get the control of the distribution channel of Godrej. But finally, what happened? That is during that time, what happened? The objective could not fulfill for both the parties. So that is why they are separated. So, but you have to see whether the production capacity of the farm installed as well as utilize, whether it is able to utilize the optimum utilizations or minimum utilization. That is exactly is the micro level decisions you have to take. Proportion of total production supplied to the home markets. That is exactly we talk about whether you have a control over the market or you are just a most of the market is controlled by there is local players. If local players are they are controlling the market and you have a smaller market share, then exactly what happens, your price decisions is not decided by you. Decision will be decided by whom? That is the get decided by the other parties. Proportion of the project exported. What is the proportion of the project exported? What is the are you exporting most of the product or less product? That exactly. So information as far as at micro level is concerned, you have to have to understand the production capacity, proportion to total production supplied, proportion to the present exported. Next, we talk about what are the sources of price informations. The sources of price informations, that is exactly where do you get information as far as pricing is concerned. So when you talk about the price informations, you have to see whether you have the domestic export statistics, you have export promotional council or bureaus, commodity powers pricing, price bulletins, fund and food agriculture organization provide an idea of the export import, catalog published by the department stores, if reports by the trade delegations. That all decides your source of information to decide about the price. So if you are exactly you see that is the trade delegations. Let us talk about the trade delegations. So now decided talk about the India and Russia as a Delhi. The delegation has already decided that is as far as crude oil is concerned. India is importing all crude oils from Russia, and where China is giving special discounts to Indian market. So when that is decided by the some trade negotiated delegations, so your price is defined by that trade delegations. Catalog published by department stores. What is the catalog decided by Fund, Food and Agriculture Organization provide an idea of the export and provide export, import and wholesale price of various commodities. That is already government is notifying that is you cannot increase the price of the so like like fertilizers or sugar, certain products where government have a control over the price. So that price you cannot. Commodity price bulletins, which is commodity, the commodity price bulletins issued by the United Nations, International Monetary Fund, they are the only source of getting information. Export promotions councils and bureaus and domestic export statistics. So all these things where you are getting the source of information. You are getting the source of information, that is exactly how what is my base to decide about the price. To decide about the price, my base would be that is from different sources. The sources are export statistics will tell me, import promotional council I will get the information, I will get information from commodity price bulletins, that is the catalogs published by department stores, reports of trade delegation, all will provide me I will get the information. These are the sources of information as proper sources for price informations to decide about the price. When you talk about the international issues, what are the issues as far as issues in international pricing? In export marketing, the price had remained the most important variable in the marketing mix. Yes, already we have talked about that. But as the farm grows and builds upon the international marketing experience, financial clouds, it changes its orientation. So exactly what we talk about, there is a concept called experience curve. The more you are going for the international, you are gathering the experience about the local markets and you have the exposure to local markets. So what could be the best pricing structure that can be decided once we go for the exporting or you are going for the international or global markets. So exactly your price will be more going towards orientations. You are not going for a price which is exactly what is decided by the demand supply is decided by the cost. It will be decided by the market orientations. You change your pricing as per the requirement, as per the orientation, as per that is because you have already gathered experience. You are in the experience crop. You are gathered experience. So that experience you will talk about, that is the what will be the best price can be possible. With the change in the marketing goals, the process of arriving at a specific price also undergoes a change because the pricing objective have to remain consistent with the other marketing objectives. So exactly already talk about that. Whatever your segmentation, whatever your targeting, whatever your positioning, that decides about the price. If you are positioning the marketing goals is the high, that is exactly to penetrate in the market. You have to grab more market share. So when you intended to get more market share, what happens? That exactly your price will remain low. You have a low price, you are going for a penetration pricing because you are your objective, your marketing goal is to penetrate in the market. So that is why the change in the marketing goals, the process of arriving at specific price also undergoes change because the price have to remain consistent with other marketing objectives. So all has to align. Already we have talked about that. All has to align. The target markets, the positioning, your marketing goals, all has to align to reach a point where the what kind of pricing you are going for. If they do not align, what will be the misperceptions and confusion will be created in the mind of the customers. So that is why your segmentation, your targeting, your position has to align together, and that will give a clear message to the target audience what price will be offering to you in the market. Another point is we talk about the cost is cost plus pricing. Cost plus pricing, there are basically two types of under this heading, the historical accounting cost methods and estimated future cost method. The former includes direct and indirect cost, has the disadvantage of ignoring demand and competitive positions. So exactly we talk about when you are deciding about the price, international pricing, you also have to see what about the cost. So if you only see the cost, the other aspect you are ignoring, that is the competitive positioning, the demand you are ignoring, but you cannot ignore the demand, you cannot ignore the competitions, you have to also think about that. That is why even if you are going for a cost plus pricing, but that is the two things you cannot ignore. That is why we talk about the issues as far as issues is concerned. That is, we talk about the price had remained most important variables in the market, but how the farmer grows, experience curve we are talking about, the company is getting experience, and experience, that is exactly you will be learning many things with the due course of experience. So exactly your price will be more of orientation, market orientations you take into considerations, the demand, the customers, the competitors, the trends you are taking into consideration everything, then you decide about the price. But you that is also another point is if your marketing goal is to, you have to see what is your marketing goal. You have to wanted to marketing goal is to penetrate, or your marketing goal is to get the chunk of the market. That exactly decides about the pricing strategy. And third one is cost plus. This is cost plus. Even if the cost of production remains high, but you also have to include, that is you have to also consider the demand and competitive positions. Then these are three issues as far as international pricing is concerned. When you talk about the competitive pricing, when you talk about competitive pricing, the while costs are important, they should be considered in conjunction with the prices for competitive products in the target markets. Once these price levels have been established, the base price, the price that the buyer will pay for the product can be determined. It involves four steps. Estimation of the demand schedule, what is the kind of forecast? What can be the estimation of the demand estimate schedule? Estimation of the incremental full manufacturing marketing cost to achieve projected sales revenue. So you are forecasting your sales, then you are deciding which kind of product, which kind of price mechanism will be good for. Selecting the price which offers the highest contributions, inclusion of other elements of the marketing mix. Here we are, as far as competitive pricing is concerned, we are going for identifying what is we are forecasting, what could be the sales. The sales is deciding exactly what will be forecasting the sales. Sales, your forecasting sales will decide the company to go for incremental or full manufacturing or marketing cost, and then you would go for the pricing which is the highest contributions. Then also you are considering the promotional aspects. The promotional aspect also included in your pricing mechanism. So when you are going for the competitive pricing, you are considering all these aspects as far as competitive pricing is concerned. So market pricing, exactly you talk about the next one, you talk about the market pricing. In some cases one can charge what the market will be. That is exactly the mass market. If the supplier is one of a few, despite all problems associated with the price fixing, the market may be not able to bear a high price. But if, as it is India, the export crops fails, then other suppliers can take advantage of this to charge high price of the similar products, similar export crops. So this has been a case of few years ago with the supermarkets. As far as market pricing is concerned, the demand and supply, that is they decide the price. The demand is high, you can charge high price. If the demand is low, you can charge low price. So that is why the case is exactly, despite the price fixing, the market may be able to bear a high price. If you see the market can bear, then exactly you have to go for that. If as an Indian market, that is exactly what talk about that. Three basic factors that determine the boundaries of the pricing decision: the price floor, the minimum price bounded by the product cost, the price ceiling, maximum price bounded by the competitions and the market, the optimum price, the function of demand and the cost of supplying the product. In addition to the price setting, cognizance must be taken of government tax policies. Even if you have the deciding the price, or you are taking into consideration, you are going for a production, you are taking into considerations the production cost, the price ceiling or the maximum price, everything you are deciding. But still you have to see, also take into consideration the government tax policies, resale prices, dumping problems, transportation cost, middlemen also. When you talk about the Indian market, what happens? There is a middleman, whatever product you are selling, you have to take the help of the middleman. The middleman will decide your price. Middleman always, even if you are getting the product with less price, but the middleman takes more profit of that. So that is, since you are depending on the middleman will fix the price. The market pricing is decided by the cost of productions and price selling, but also you have to take into account cognizance must be taken of government tax policies, resale dumping. What is dumping? Dumping is, some countries when the product, international product, reach the decline stage, they start dumping. China is famous for dumping. What exactly they do? They sell the product below the price prevailing in the domestic market. If products are selling dumping, products are selling with less price in other markets, definitely that is happening in the EU, that is also giving competitions. Also we talk about the, the second hand, the resale values of the product, and also we talk about the, like, the other players who are not giving tax to the government. So that also market pricing is decided by all this. Even if you have the cost of production, you take into account cost of maximum price bounded by competitions, all, but you have to take into cognizance of the tax policy, resale prices, dumping, transportation costs, and middlemen, and also. Market pricing, when you're talking about the market pricing, we have already talked about that. When you talk about the penetration pricing, you are talking about the volume. The volume is your strategy. You are going for a huge volume, the market you are going to wanted to cover a huge volume, huge market. So that is why you are going for the penetration pricing. When you go for the high price, I talked about that. The market is two kinds of market you have. Are you targeting the narrow market, or are you targeting the broad market? When you are targeting the narrow market, the market is broad one, narrow market. That is, few are your takers. When few are your takers, they also want something is unique, something is differentiation in the product. When they want uniqueness, differentiation in your product, so you are including that features in your product and the price becomes higher. But when you talk about the penetration, people do not compare the product. They only see the product. They do not see the branded, whether it's brand generic products. They do not see whether the product is branded one or it is a, exactly with the features. They only see the product. So where volume, you were talking about the volume, you are getting, your market is a broad market, you are going for the cost leadership approach. When the market is a narrow market, you are going for the differentiations. When you are including differentiation in your offering, then exactly you will be charging high price for your product. So that is why the penetration and skimming is another strategy. Two strategy we talk about as far as market pricing is concerned. Market holding is a strategy intended to hold share. Market holding is strategy intended to hold share. Here the products are not based on the state exchange rates, but current rates, but on what the market can bear. Exactly, if you wanted to, you can wanted to only retain the market share, whatever you have, then exactly your product will be straight on the exchange rates, but at current rates, but on what the market can be. You are not going for the what the market can be. You are going for a rate which is can be bear by the market. Then you talk about the international price policies. What are the international pricing policies? We do have, already we have talked about as far as product is concerned. We had the same extensions. We have adaptations. We have what is that? We have standardizations. But in case of your international pricing policies, we are talking about extensions. The same global price, a very simple method, but does not respond to the market sensitivity. that is the case, is the marketer has to be sensible enough to see what is the price that market can bear. If the market can bear a high price or market can bear low price, then exactly you have to go for high price or you have to go for the low price. The market cannot bear, then exactly the so that is exactly if you are going for the extension of pricing. So whatever price is prevailing in your country, you are have the same price you are going for the in your other countries. So what will happen? So that is people will not consider that product. That is if you offer in the Indian market, Kellogg's. Kellogg's will offered breakfast cereals with 150 rupees, or you can afford breakfast with 150 rupees. How many Indians they can afford to go for say, breakfast for 150 rupees? Even if you extend, Indians can go max to max. They can spend 50 rupees, 70 rupees for breakfast, but they cannot go for more than go more than 150 or 200 rupees for breakfast. So if you are keeping that, you are extending the price what is prevailing in your countries, same price if you are extending to other in the other countries, then that price mechanism does not work. That is why you have to be sensible enough when you are going for the extension of pricing. But another pricing strategy, you talk about the adaptation pricing strategy. The different pricing in different markets. The only country is setting transfer pricing within the corporate system. It prevents problem of arbitrage when the disparities in the local market price exceed the transport and duty cost separating markets. So you are going here, we are going for a price mechanism which is can be adaptable. मतलब that is exactly if the Indian customer, the McDonald, Burger King, or you talk about the Sony, they bring all low-end products to Indian market because they know Indian customer cannot afford a high price as far as the product is concerned, the price is concerned. So that is why if you are offering something them to low price, because see, GM, that is General Motor, they do not because they are not successful in the Indian market, because the Indian customers look for a price which is very affordable, and they also look for a car which is low end cars started with 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs. But if GM or BMW, Mercedes, they can go for the pricing mechanism for 5 lakhs, that will deteriorate their brand image. And meantime also they also cannot have a that is exactly deteriorate brand image. Also the product will not become successful one. So that is why that is adaptation is not always correct, but in certain cases you can go for the adaptations. That is if the product is a food, if the product is a clothes, then you can go for the adaptation pricing. Whatever the customer market requirements, whatever market demands, you can offer same price to the market, that you can adopt that pricing strategy. That is to talk about the adaptations. But and this third one is innovations. When you are going for innovation, you are mixing both A and B. You are going for adaptation extensions and adaptations. This takes cognizance of many of any unique market factor like cost, competition, income level, local marketing strategy. So that is you have to bring innovations. If you are going for a new, small sachets, then exactly people can go for that. It is a possibility of you can introduce that product, but it's a different exactly different price mechanism altogether. Because if it is high price, if it's the product same product, you cannot afford to launch the product with low price. If it is a low product, if it is a you are going for a new pricing altogether. You are bringing innovation as far as your pricing is concerned. So that is exactly, let's talk about that. Suppose you're talking about that is if anything is offered in EMI. EMI can be offered to the Indian customer if they can go for iPhones. So that is you have to bring EMI options. If you talk about only you have to pay 1.5 lakhs, 2 lakhs as far as iPhone is concerned, then hardly you will be getting few customers. But if you are including EMIs and options, if they wanted to purchase through EMI, then Indian customers can go for the EMI. That is exactly you talk about the three things. You talk about the extensions. Here, the company only wanted to extend the marketing, the pricing policy, the pricing which is prevailing in the other markets. You are just extending that. That is exactly. Second one you talk about, that is adaptations, the adaptation pricing mechanism, where you wanted to adopt a new pricing mechanism altogether. And third one is innovation. You have to bring innovation as far as your price is concerned. Innovation will give you the best solutions because the customer will want different products, different pricing altogether. You can have a different product, a different price altogether, and that will become a successful one. Talking about the transfer pricing, let us talk about the transfer pricing. In case of transfer pricing, in international marketing, different units under the same corporate body but located in different foreign countries exchange goods services among themselves. The price of such exchange is known as transfer pricing. The rational system of transfer pricing is required to ensure profitability at each level. There are four major approaches to transfer pricing: transfer at cost, transfer at cost plus overhead and margin, transfer at price that derived from end market prices, transfer of arm's length pricing. So here we are talking about we are talking about what could be the pricing mechanism. That is what is the price involved as far as transfer is concerned. The pricing of such exchange is known as transfer pricing. If you are if your corporates body and located in different foreign countries, country exchange rate, goods and services among themselves, pricing of such exchange is known as transfer pricing. A rational system of transfer pricing required to ensure profitability at each level. There are four approaches to the transfer pricing: transfer of good cost, transfer of at cost plus overhead and margins, transfer at price derived from end markets, and transfer of arm's length price. What do we talk about? That is transfer pricing. We talk about transfer at cost. What is that? Transfer of cost is one of the approach based on the assumptions. Lower cost leads to better performance by the subsidiaries. Definitely, lower cost, you are talking low cost. This also calls keep duties at the receiving end to a minimum. That is one of the, we talk about the transfer cost pricing. Cost plus transfer methods. This method is applied to in recognition of the principle that profit must be shown of every product services at every stage of the movement through the corporate systems. So here we are talking about that is you have to show the profits at each step. That we talk about the cost plus transfer methods. Then third one we talk about market based transfer pricing. Under this method, the price is derived from the competitive foreign markets. As a result, it may be too low for the selling subsidiaries. The manufacturing cost may not be recovered. So that is we talk about the market based. Even if you are transferring the product, then what happens? The manufacturing cost may not be covered. That is exactly you are transferring the price, but exactly the market is different altogether. This is we talk about the three kinds of price mechanism. We are talking about the transfer pricing, the transfer at cost methods, cost plus transfer method, market based transfer pricing method. These are the three kinds of pricing methods as far as the transfer pricing is concerned. When you talk about the transfer pricing, transfer at arm's length price. In this method, the transfer price is the price that unaffiliated parties in the similar transaction agree on. The arm's length price can be useful if it is viewed as a range of prices rather than a single point price. In fact, the pricing at arm's length is, in the case of differentiated products, result not in predeterminable specific price but in price that will fall within a predeterminable range. The problem with this method occurs when the product has no external buyer, is sold at a different prices in the different markets. So here we are talking about the transfer price is the price that is on affiliated parties in similar transactions, and if it is viewed as a range of prices rather than a single point price. In fact, pricing at arm's length in the case of differentiated product results not in predeterminable price specific prices, but in prices that fall within the predeterminable range. So the problem with this method occurs when the product has no external buyers or is sold at a different price in different markets. So this is we talk about the transfer pricing methods. So we talk about that is how you can go for the transfer pricing as far as cost is concerned, as far as cost plus pricing is concerned, market based pricing is concerned, and arm's length pricing is concerned. So this is we talk about the different transfer pricing is concerned. So let us summarize the details what we have discussed today. First of all, we have discussed about the first one we discussed about We talk about the pricing product or services is one of the sensitive issue. That is exactly, you cannot have control over the price. The pricing in the international market is an extremely complex affair due to the political or economic risks involved. That is exactly the third one. We can talk about the organizations and advantage in the, that is currency gains, but this should not be the reason for why organizations would get into the foreign transactions. That is, we talk about the, basically we talk about the pricing is one of the sensitive and complex affairs. You have to think about what are the, even if you are increasing the price or reducing the price, that has a significant impact on your decision. That is why you talk about, that is the pricing is one of the important aspect. When you talk about the process of price settings, you have to think about the cost, demand and supply, the economic and legal political conditions. You have to take into consideration some of the things. Also, you have to take about, when you talk about the process of price settings, you have to think about the, all the things has to align. The what align, that is the segmentation, your targeting, your positioning has to align. If you are targeting a premium segment, the price will be higher. If you are targeting an economic segment, the price will be lower. So that exactly you are talking about the different price mechanism. That is all has to align together because of the price settings. So when you talk about the pricing in international markets, the four things that decides about the price. One is the demand conditions, life cycle, supply conditions, and product life cycle. If the product is in the, if the farm is in the international stage or global stage, or is in the now in the export stage, that decides the demand of the market. That decides the supply of the conditions of the market, the product life cycles. That is exactly deciding your pricing. The elements of the price quotations, the three things, three things we take into consideration: the cost involved in that, the currency, whether there is a currency is fluctuating one, the terms of delivery. That exactly talk about the elements of price quotations. The informations required as far as your pricing is concerned: the production cost, you have to think about the cost of distribution, cost of marketing support, nature of the product. That exactly decides about the pricing decisions. If the production cost is high, the cost of distribution is also high, and marketing support in terms of advertising, sales promotion, technical literatures, that is also high. Then exactly that decides about the informations you require when you are taking the price decisions. The market information, you wanted to have the market informations, the market structure. If the market is a competitive one, then exactly decides about your pricing. If the that is if the market is a market developed particular segments, then you talk about the ruling price in the current markets, including the prices of substitutes. That also decide information required at micro level, the capacity utilization, proportion of the total production, present exported. Then sources of price information, you'll be getting source of price information from export promotional council, commodity price bulletins, bond and food agriculture organizations, catalogs published by department stores, a report of trade delegations. They all provide informations related to the sources of price informations. Issues in international pricing, that is exactly the if you keep the price high, what happens, the the your marketing goal and your price does not go together. That is why you have to think about how the price has to align with your marketing goals. Then you talk about the issues in international cost plus pricing, the two types of handling, the historical accounting methods. You talk about the estimation future cost involved. Then you talk about the competitive pricing. The competitive pricing, you take into account the competitors, whatever they offer, whether your price is up to the mark. That is the demand schedule. What is the estimations, incrementals. That we talk about the market pricing. In case of some case, what happens? The market decides, and also you have to think about what are the other legal aspect that involved as far as pricing is concerned. Three basic factors we talk about: the market pricing, we talk about the price floors, minimum price, bounded price. Market pricing, low, we talk of two options, like about the low price, presentation pricing, high price, skimming pricing. That is exactly you can go for the skimming or low price. What is your objective? Keeping in mind your objectives. International pricing policy, you have go for extensions, adaptations, you can go for the innovations. If you are extending the price, then you talk about the extensions. If you are going for a new price altogether for different country, adaptations and innovations. When you talk about the transfer pricing, you talk about when you talk about the transfer pricing, you talk about transfer of cost method, cost plus transfer methods, market-based transfer methods, and arm's length pricing. So this is exactly the discussion about pricing is concerned. Pricing is one of the important aspect, and it has to be taken seriously. And if anything goes wrong, and any high price or low price, that will impact give a significant impact on the marketing decisions. With this, we are concluding this session. Thank you.